Welcome to the Daily Review. This is Fed Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. Today is April 4th, 2025, and today is Friday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the tariff sell-off, we could call it that. The market sell-off because of the tariffs that Donald Trump is imposing. We're going to take a look at that in just a second. But first, looking at today's major economic events. So we have at 2:30 South African time, NFP, non-farm payroll from the United States, and also at 5:25 from the United States, Fed Chairman Powell will be speaking, super important. Now, looking at the markets, it's a sell-off almost across the board. So starting out with the Forex symbols, the dollar selling off against everything. The biggest gainer was the euro. Now, looking at the indices, the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ both sold off aggressively. Now, looking at commodities, the only thing that sold off was oil, gold, and natural gas holding on. Oil got beat up, and looking at the stocks, the sell-off was across the board, some more, some less. We're going to take a look at that. And lastly, looking at cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin holding at 82K and not selling off. That's super important. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go. First with the Euro USD, it's the one that moved the most, to tell you the truth, 275 pips. So it cleared 11. Now it's just below 11, about 60 pips below it. Now this could create a really great fade opportunity. The US market selling off may be justified. We're going into inflationary, we're still in an inflationary environment. We might be going into a recession, but the Forex symbols, now this is where it gets a little bit interesting, because if we look at the Euro USD, it's got that spike. Usually following this type of spike, we have a correction. So just keep that in mind. Looking at the GBP, it's the same story, but the GBP is going ahead of the Euro. You actually see a red bar there, whereby the Euro you didn't. So that's an important element to keep in mind. Now looking at commodities, oil sold off tremendously, completely, because if tariffs are going to be implemented, it means that there's going to be some scarcity in the actual economics of things, and things on the short term will get affected. I don't know how it's going to happen in the long term, but in the short term, it's going to get affected. However, gold did not budge so much. Yes, it did retrace to 3,100 from its high of 3,166, but it's still in that upper range. So keep that in mind as this is holding on. Now, looking at the U.S. markets, this is where it gets super, super interesting. The Dow Jones pummeling, okay, to 40,333. We're only about 300 points away, or 400 points from our previous supportish level, okay? Now, I did mention this several times. Now, we are in a congested area. Okay, why do I say congested area? Because previously to this, this was subsequent support, right? This is a much more important support because it's previous resistance. So with that said, keep in mind that we may still bounce off of these levels, right? Remember that fade opportunity? There's an extreme move and then a correctional move that comes right afterwards. NASDAQ got hit much harder. Now, the stocks all sold off. Just the question is, which sold off more and which sold off less? So let's take a look at it. We're going to take a look at the bank stocks first because they did get hit a lot harder. JP Morgan selling off to 228, and Bank of America, big gap down, and a gap lower than its previous low of $39 a share. So that's super important. Now, if we look at the tech stocks, they gapped down with variations. Meta got gapped down very severely, okay? But if we look at NVIDIA, it didn't. Not as bad, okay? It's still above or close to that $100 point, okay? So it didn't sell off tremendously, okay? It did sell off, but not sell off tremendously. It's super important to note. Now, you got to go through the stocks, particularly each one, to see which one went down the most and which one didn't go down the most, and that way you can rate it for yourself as possibly a correctional move for today. Now, lastly, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't budge lower, 82K. Yes, is it off of its highs? Absolutely. But it's at 82K. It's all good in this environment. Kind of shows you that cryptocurrency is still going to be sustaining for the future. This is Fed Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.